Episode 4 Agile Project Management. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Lean English Podcast. My name is Tom and I will be your host. Thank you for joining me. This is the last episode in a 4-part series on Lean, Six Sigma, and Agile. If this is your first time joining us, here's a quick backstory. Before I moved to France and became an English professor, I worked as a quality manager and Lean Six Sigma consultant for many years. For variety, I use podcasts to learn French vocabulary and pronunciation. So, as a supplement to the other language sessions I offer my students, I thought a podcast would be nice, particularly if it included other valuable information. The goal of this podcast is to provide comprehensible input at a slow pace for non-native speakers who are also looking to improve their business or their careers. If you are interested in learning the tools and philosophies of the most profitable businesses in the world, you are in the right place. In case you are one of those people who likes to listen to things out of order, and instead of starting with episode 1, you started with episode 4, here is a recap of the episodes so far. The first episode was a high-level introduction to my company, the podcast, and process improvement methodologies. I provide English language training for companies and individuals in person and online. That training is focused on helping my students receive a language certification by passing the TOEIC exam. But the difference is, I use business lessons as the material for the course. If you work in an international company that uses English and need help solving productivity and quality problems, give us a call. We will tailor a training program fitted to your level of language and technical expertise. And if you are in France, we are Calliope certified, so any of our courses can be paid for by your CPF. Then we talked about the history and the main contributors of Lean, Six Sigma, and Agile's development. In the early 1900s, we saw an introduction to scientific business management that changed how companies do business. Engineers like Frederick Taylor, Henry Ford, Walter Shewhart, and Sakichi Toyota developed ideas that would be the foundations of Lean, Six Sigma, and Agile. They saw how the old way of business was detrimental to quality and productivity, and management needed to change. Six Sigma was developed by engineers at Motorola in the 1980s to provide more statistical rigor to problem solving. And we will see in this episode how, in the early 2000s, Agile used Lean's principles to offer a better way to develop software. After our history lesson, we listed the similarities and differences between the methodologies. Depending on your business, the technical expertise of your team, and the complexity of your problem, you may choose one method over another. It is important to get this decision right because business leaders rarely get a second chance to change how the company works. For the second episode, we focused solely on Lean. Lean is a collection of philosophies and tools that developed over a century of innovation and collaboration. We see throughout the decades that new principles and values are added as new problems arise. Sakichi Toyota's initial work with automatic looms inspires the Lean principle Jidoka, the idea that defects should be easy to identify and work should stop until the problem is solved. Kiichiro Toyota followed in his father's footsteps and started the Toyota Motor Company. Lean is synonymous with Toyota Motor Company's production system called TPS because many of the principles were developed by Toyota. I suspect one of the reasons it was labeled lean is because they tried to identify and remove waste from all the company's processes. Waste is essentially any activity that does not add value to the customer. We covered the three types of lean improvements: Kaizen, Kaizen Blitz, and Kaikuku. They offer a range of options from small, daily improvements to radical change. One of the benefits of lean is that the problem-solving tools are easily understood and universally adapted to any business. Everyone in the company gets engaged in improving their processes, and the high tide raises all boats. This means that everyone in the company benefits from using lean problem-solving tools. During the third episode, we highlighted the structure and phases of Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a project management method that uses statistical analysis to reduce the variation in processes. As processes and products become more technically advanced, slight variations can have an enormous impact on quality and customer satisfaction. These can only be detected by using highly sensitive measurement equipment and powerful statistical tools. Many practitioners use both Lean and Six Sigma tools during their projects as they complement each other. For example, Six Sigma uses the same ideas that Lean highlights. Value is customer-driven, solutions must address the root cause of the problem, and removing waste is essential for faster product delivery. Also, many Lean tools like Heijunka, 5S, and visual management are used during Six Sigma's improve phase. Six Sigma uses 5 phases to reduce variation and create value: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. This toll-gated project management structure means they must show their completed work to the project champion before being allowed to move forward. Each phase has its own goals and requirements, and as the project progresses, the team learns about the problem, identifies the root cause, creates and tests which solution works best, and controls the new process once it is put in place. The purpose of the extensive statistical analysis is to prove a direct link between our causes and effects and to test which solution provides the greatest benefit. It can be difficult to learn it all, but projects can provide significant improvements if performed correctly. This episode in 2 parts will concentrate on Agile Project Management, and particularly the style called Scrum. As we will see, there are many different forms of Agile, each with its pros and cons. But I chose Scrum because it is the easiest to understand for new learners. Also, it incorporates many of the same tools as the other disciplines. Just to cover the basics, we will briefly talk about Waterfall, the Agile Manifesto, which gives us the 4 values and 12 principles of Agile, the 3 pillars of Scrum, the Scrum project lifecycle, and the planning, review, and retrospective meetings, as well as the team roles and responsibilities. As with the previous episodes, this is a high-level review of Agile and is not intended to be a guide for implementation. We plan to cover these topics and tools in more detail in future episodes. But if you have listened to my previous episodes, you understand how I love to start with background information to put the material into context. This slide covers waterfall project management. It is called waterfall because it looks kind of like water flowing down multiple steps. But in this case, Work flows from one stage to the next only after leadership determines that sufficient progress has been made, much like a Six Sigma project. For example, the work of requirements gathering involves many meeting with the management team and the customer to determine what exactly needs to be created. Traditionally, the company negotiates the contract on the work that is being requested. They must be sure that everything is accounted for so the price can be as accurate as possible. Everything is extensively documented because any dispute or legal action will be judged by what was put in writing. Once requirements are gathered and the contract has been negotiated and signed, then the team can begin the project work. At this point, the customer leaves everything in the capable hands of the developers and waits for the call saying everything is ready to deploy. They offer very little support or additional information because any changes to the requirements must be approved by a committee, further delaying the project and creating conflict between the developer and the client. Waterfall works well for traditional projects like buildings because the customer would know exactly what they want, the company would know exactly how to build it, and nothing much would change from contract to delivery. Unless you are building something exotic, there are not many unknowns when it comes to designing or acquiring raw materials needed to build a house. Unfortunately, Waterfall doesn't work for software development because the market for software changes so rapidly that the customer's idea they are trying to sell may be obsolete or redundant before all the requirements are compiled. Merely documenting the requirements and all the points during the negotiation can take weeks or months. By then, it is too late. Also, customers often do not have all the details about what they want, and developers will be creating something that has never been developed before. Software development is full of unknowns. To combat this, in 2001, 17 software development experts wrote and signed the Manifesto for Agile Software Development, also known as the Agile Manifesto. This one-page letter is considered the key reference for all Agile practices. The goal was to create a document to show companies and developers that there is an easier, more inclusive way of delighting customers. It outlines 4 values and 12 principles. On the right side of the slide are the 4 values. We quickly see that the new way of working is valued above the old ways that were carried over from the traditional waterfall style of project management. We prefer individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Throughout Agile is the promotion of open communication and teamwork. Individual developers add value to the product, processes and tools do not. Agile believes that the individual developer will find a way to produce a high quality product, regardless of the tools they use. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Waterfall project management is famous for documenting requirements, creating plans, and formalizing schedules. In the eyes of the customer, this is all non value added. The customer is paying for working software, not management documents. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. One of the reasons agile teams can get started so quickly is because the customer is part of the team and provides feedback throughout the project. They don't have to spend months on requirements gathering because they know the requirements will likely change as things progress, and they can just ask the customer for feedback. Contract negotiations prolong the pre project work and make an adversary out of the customer. Responding to change over following a plan. Agile must be adaptive, so they created an iterative cycle of product development that we will talk about later. Plans take a long time to create, and once they are fixed are very difficult to change. Unfortunately, technology changes so rapidly that fixed plans become obsolete very soon. Now that we know Agile's values, let's talk about the Agile Manifesto principles and how they change the way projects are managed. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Waterfall takes too long to develop software because the work only begins after contract negotiations, requirement documentation, project planning, team building, etc. And even after the work starts, the customer sees the product only after the product is completed. Agile remedies this by prioritizing working software, not project plans. The team starts building after they have just enough planning to complete a minimally viable product. This greatly shortens the development process. Welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. With Waterfall, the requirements are set in stone and do not change unless there is a significant request from the customer. And even then, the plan must be altered, which changes timelines, costs, and expenses. All of this leads to more negotiation and more delays. Agile teams prefer to work on small chunks of requirements during a sprint to adapt quickly when the customer changes their mind. This is critical because the computer and application marketplace is rapidly changing. What was cutting edge 1 year ago is now obsolete. So agile teams can adapt to this change better than teams using waterfall. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter timescale. This keeps the customer engaged in the project and allows the team to build a product that is continually tested. Agile teams incorporate quality control into their daily work by using best practices like test driven development and continuous integration. This ensures that the code is free from bugs and integrates with the program that already exists. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. As the developers are the only people in the company adding value to the product by writing high quality code, everyone else does what they can to help them throughout the project. Furthermore, if there is open communication between these groups, it is less likely that the sales team will make promises that the development team cannot keep. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. In Agile, developers are given a lot of freedom to schedule and structure their work, but they are held responsible if goals are not achieved. Therefore, they must be motivated to complete their work without too much oversight. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. As requirements and expectations change quickly, there is no time to write emails, wait for a response, and then take action. Action needs to be taken today, now. Also, there should be no ambiguity about the message. If we are communicating face to face, we can give feedback, respond to questions, come to an agreement, and have a better understanding of what to do next. Working software is the primary measure of progress. Again, all value is viewed from the customer's perspective. They don't care how many meetings you have or if your leadership team is up to date. They want tangible evidence that the developers are going to deliver a working product on time. And the best way to do that is to show them working software as it is created. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The development team should be able to maintain a constant pace of work indefinitely. This aligns with the lean principle of Heijunka, leveling the workload. There should never be a rush to complete work or a scramble to meet a deadline, as this creates unnecessary stress and defects. Steady development also helps the team predict their future performance. If the team alternates between working overtime and doing nothing, it will be difficult for them to make accurate promises to the customer. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Agile offers many techniques, such as pair programming, to ensure the code is correct each day and defects are kept to a minimum. Good design goes hand in hand with our next principle, simplicity. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. Einstein said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." The more complexity in the code, the harder it is to understand, modify, and debug. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. In Waterfall, the project manager determines the workload, but not so in Agile. Agile teams are given freedom to determine how to get the most work done. This knowledge is very valuable as it helps the team determine their own daily priorities and schedules for how to do the work. The more teams work together, the more they develop the processes that work best for them, given their strengths and weaknesses. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. This aligns with the spirit of Kaizen, adopted from Lean. There are mandatory meetings after each sprint that provide a safe environment for discussing what went well and what did not go well. This is another use of face-to-face communication in Agile. Here is the Scrum project lifecycle. When the project starts, the product owner works with the customer to create the product backlog. This is the list of all the major functionality and features the customer needs for their product or application. A few things are special about the product backlog. In the beginning, it is not completely refined, but the team starts when they have just enough documentation to get to work. The backlog is written from the viewpoint of the end user in the form of user stories. User stories are formed like this. As a web designer, I need a dashboard to help me see the work progress for all the web pages on the site at once. This format allows enough flexibility for the team to determine the best way to develop that functionality. Then the product owner shares the backlog with the Scrum Master and team. Depending on the size of the project, the backlog is prioritized into releases or large portions of the whole project with similar functionality. This release backlog helps the team prioritize the work of the most important functionality first. They then divide the releases into iterations of manageable work, or sprints, 2 to 4 weeks long. The team selects which tasks to work on during each sprint. Here, the sprint backlog user stories are further broken down into manageable tasks that the team works on during the day. This principle aligns with Lean's idea of one-piece flow. Only one task is worked on at a time until it is completed, tested, and integrated. During the sprint, there are many important meetings. Each day there is a stand-up meeting where the members share with the team and the Scrum Master what they plan to do. The sprint review happens after the sprint. It is when the functionality is demonstrated for the customer. This is when the team shows what they have or have not completed. The customer's feedback from the sprint review is then used by the product owner to reprioritize the backlog and give the team a better sense of what the customer wants. After the sprint review, the sprint retrospective is time for the team to identify ways to improve their performance. And then the process repeats until the work is completed for a release. And then the release cycle repeats until the customer is happy with what has been produced and accepts delivery. This is a high-level view of an agile release cycle. Beginning with the customer requirements, the team prioritizes the items from the product backlog to plan the sprint, develop, test, and deploy the minimally viable product, and review it with the customer. They use the customer's feedback to update the product backlog, and the cycle starts all over again. This sprint cycle repeats many times until the customer accepts the minimum marketable feature at the end of the release. We will discuss the differences between the minimally viable product and the minimum marketable feature in part 2 of the Agile episode. But for right now, the minimally viable product is a proof of concept, a small piece of functionality that can be created in one sprint. The minimum marketable feature is functionality that can stand on its own as a product or application the customer can use. And here is the life cycle for releasing the entire product. There may be multiple releases before the final product is delivered to the customer and the project can end. However, regardless of the number of releases, the team still follows the same pattern for every release. Prioritize the most important functionality according to the client, create the minimally viable product during a sprint, release the minimum marketable feature, and repeat until all the functionality has been delivered. Now we will start talking about the specifics of Scrum. These are the 3 pillars of Scrum: being transparent with the customer, leadership, and the team members is the first. Transparency means there is nowhere to hide on an agile project. The team must demonstrate at the end of the sprint in front of the leadership team and the customer whether they have fulfilled their work pledge. Teams work in shared spaces and update information radiators for everyone to monitor their progress. Everyone agrees to open testing of the code they produce, and work is inspected continually during the sprint. Team members are open to finding errors rather than covering them up. Agile companies understand that mistakes happen, so self-diagnosis is looked upon favorably. Adaptation creates a mindset that helps the team move forward without sentiment for the past. Technology develops quickly, so adapting to the market demand is necessary for survival. Agile teams embrace change and know this ability gives them an advantage over traditional development. This is all possible because they only commit to a sprint's worth of work at a time. The sprint planning meeting is scheduled before every sprint, when the development team, Scrum Master, and product owner select and prioritize which functionality will be developed. The meeting is time-boxed to be 1 to 2 hours per week of sprint. If your sprints are 3 weeks long, expect a 3 to 6 hour meeting. Agile uses time boxing to limit the time the team spends in meetings. The definition of done must be clarified so the team understands exactly what they need to do. The team chooses how much they can accomplish and must pledge to complete the work they select. The daily stand-up meeting is conducted before each workday. To limit interference, it is only attended by the Scrum Master and the development team. To promote work transparency, each team member gives 3 updates: the tasks they completed yesterday, the scheduled tasks for today, and the issues that require Scrum Master support. The Scrum Master uses the information to update information radiators and calculate the team's velocity, the rate at which they complete work. The meeting is time boxed to 15 minutes. If larger issues arise from the meeting, they are discussed offline. The sprint review is held after every sprint to show the customer the workable software that the team created. It is attended by the customer, product owner, Scrum Master, development team, and other potential stakeholders and sponsors. It is time boxed at 1 hour for every week of sprint. This meeting serves several purposes. It holds the team responsible for the work they agreed to create. It shows the customer that they are valued and a part of the team. It offers the product owner an opportunity to communicate face-to-face with the customer and receive the feedback necessary to further refine and groom the product backlog. The sprint retrospective is conducted after every sprint review and is an opportunity for the team to talk about the sprint. The meeting is time boxed to be 45 minutes per week of sprint. It is attended by the Scrum Master, development team, and possibly an external facilitator. The focus is to make issues visible so they can identify improvement opportunities. They all share their opinion of what went well, what went poorly, and what the team needs to do to improve the next sprint. The team takes ownership of their performance and seeks help where they need it. This represents Agile's commitment to the lean principle of continuous improvement. Agile asks leadership and team members to take specific roles during the project. Traditional project management roles are not applicable here, so training and the right mindset must be reinforced and incentivized by a supportive culture. For the product owner, they work for the development company, but they represent the demands of the customer. They must be able to drive the customer's vision, requirements, and priorities. They spend most of their time grooming the product backlog and elaborating the requirements, so they are easy to understand by the development team. The Scrum Master is responsible to the team and works to help them improve their performance. This involves reducing the interference from leadership and providing training when necessary. They act as servant leaders, removing obstacles so the team can perform at their best. The development team is best when they are a small group of 5 to 9 engineers who are able to perform different tasks. They are self-organized, closely linked, and often paired. They must work together in the same space and on the same code, so there must be a strong culture of open communication and collaboration for the project to be a success. Well, this looks like a good place to stop. We will complete our brief Agile course in Part 2. As always, if you have any questions or need help with your language or business training, send me an email and I will reach out to you soon. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, be good, and I'll talk to you later.